A very good morning to one and all present over here in this webinar. I, Abhinav Paul, the Vice Principal of LCIT College of Commerce and Science, would like to welcome everyone who is attending this webinar. And I'm grateful to God that He has given us science. Science has brought us together because we have Satveer Jagwani ji with us right now. And without science, it was not possible to travel all the seas and all the oceans and make it possible for a person in another continent to talk to another person in this continent. And this is all because of science. So let us start this webinar with the blessings of Goddess Saraswati. So I would request our technical team to kindly play the video, which will be playing on the YouTube channel. And after that, I shall be requesting the other eminent personalities to start addressing all of you. So once again, good morning to all of you. Let's join in the YouTube page of LCIT Group of Institutions. If you check that page, you'll be able to see the whole webinar going live right now.
शुभ्र वस्त्रा वृता या वीणा वरदण्ड मण्डितकरा या श्वेत पद्मा
After receiving the blessings of the deity of knowledge, it is my pleasure to now invite the Dean of Science Department to address us, and that is none other than our own Mr. Abhishek Keshavani sir. Abhishek Keshavani sir has a very long experience in computer science and has been leading the Department of Science from past 3 years. And Department of Science comprises of various other streams which comes together and tries to give knowledge to children so that they could be inquisitive about science, they could seek more knowledge in science and go miles ahead. So without much ado, I would like to request our Dean of Science Department, or Mr. Abhishek Keshavani sir, to come and address us.
Thank you, Abhinav sir. Good morning to one and all present in this webinar through online mode. I, Abhishek Keshavani, Dean of Science, welcome all of you for this webinar on applications of science in daily life. In the same breath, I would like to thank Honorable Chairman Mr. Pramod Jain sir, LCIT Group of Institution, Mr. Ankit Jain sir, Vice Chairman, LCIT Group of Institution, Dr. Piyush Kant Pandey sir, Director, LCIT Group of Institution, Dr. Archana Shukla, Principal, LCIT College of Commerce and Science, Mr. Abhinav Paul, Vice Principal, LCIT Group of Institution. I am grateful towards the eminent personality who have given their valuable time to grace the webinar. I am Dr. Satveer Jagwani, Postdoc Fellow, Massachusetts General Hospital, Boston, USA. Dr. R.S. Singh, Associate Professor, OP Jindal University, Raigarh. Dr. Anil Kumar, Delta Head, University Department of Chemistry, Ranchi, Jharkhand. I am also proud of our teaching staff and team behind organizing this event. Without much ado, I would like to tell few things about this webinar. We know science is all about nothing, the things around us and making it work for the benefits of humankind. Science work on the theory of inspiration and execution. What we see in nature, we try to despair it and use the phenomenon for making our life easier. We in this process thought of organizing a webinar to let the students know how science is used and can be used in our day-to-day life. Science has now become a part of our life and decision-making process. Science Day is celebrated to remember the birth of the great Dr. C.V. Raman, who gave us the Raman effect. Our college has a science department providing education in fields of chemistry, computer, physics, mathematics, botany, zoology, biotechnology, and microbiology. It has been a year that this celebration took a passive phases due pandemic, but this year, by the grace of God, as we are in better position, we are celebrating Science Day through 3 events. 26 Feb, that is today, we have organized a webinar on application of science, which will have 3 notable speakers addressing our notes. 27 Feb, we have an online quiz to satisfy the competitive minds. On the day of science, that is 20 Feb, 28 Feb, we shall witness a spectacular event, which is a mega exhibition on chemistry in daily life at a central lawn of our campus. I hope the event will draw the people closer to knowledge and make this event a grand success. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Abhishek Yeshwani, sir, for letting us know how our college is going to celebrate the Science Day. And the Science Day means a lot to us Indians, as it is about Dr. C.V. Ramanji, who has given us the Raman effect. And it holds a very special value in our hearts. Science has always been the star, whether it comes in the stream of education. The best is given the science. And we have another person who is the best in science with us, and that is none other than our own principal, Dr. Archana Shukla ma'am. Dr. Archana Shukla ma'am has more than 20 plus years of experience in teaching chemistry and being an environmentalist. She has also made sure that everybody has a desire to do something in the field of science. She has been a motivator in making everyone do research and join in various fields of science. So I would request our principal, Dr. Archana Shukla ma'am, to kindly address the audience.
Thank you, Abhinav sir. Good morning to all. A warm welcome to everyone on this beautiful morning. Very good morning to one and all present here. And thank you for joining us in the webinar on applications of science. It gives me immense pleasure to extend a very warm welcome to our esteemed speakers, Dr. Satveer Jagwani, Postdoc Fellow, Boston, USA. Dr. R.S. Singh, Associate Professor, O.P. Jindal University, Raigarh. Dr. Anil Kumar Delta, Department of Chemistry, Ranchi University. Thank you everyone for accepting our invitation. And I would also like to welcome Honorable Sri Pramod Jain sir, Chairman, LCIT Group of Institutions, Honorable Sri Ankit Jain sir, Vice Chairman, LCIT Group of Institution, Honorable Dr. Piyush Kant Pandey sir, Director, LCIT Group of Institutions, dear Sri Abhinav Paul sir, Vice Principal, LCIT College of Commerce and Science, all deans, Sri Umesh Patnaik, Arts Department, Sri Abhishek Kesharwani, Dean Science Department, Sheikh Adil Dalla, Dean Commerce Department, Dr. Abhinav Pradhan, Dean Law Department, all heads of different department, organizing team, dear faculty, my dear students and participants. Our college is celebrating National Science Day 2022. For these different events organized, today we have gathered here to discuss about a very important topic, applications of science. We all understand the importance of science in our day-to-day lives and the ways in which they are transforming the world. There are many wonders of science. Science plays an important part in our daily life. It has made our life easier and more comfortable. Science is nothing but a systematic way of knowledge and living. Science has invented different types of machines that are very useful for us in our daily life. Everything that the modern man uses from morning till night has been manufactured by one machine or the other. The greatest blessing of science are its inventions in the field of medicine and surgery. Science is very important for the future development of our nation. Science develops a technology which is the backbone of today's scenario. It is due to science that so many people are able to work from home. Children are having online classes in this pandemic and lockdown situation. Science has saved so many lives. Science has played a vital role in the curing and handling worst situation in this pandemic. Science has developed the vaccine for COVID treatment. Science is valued by society because the application of scientific knowledge helps to satisfy many basic human needs and improve our living standards. Science future is very dear to us, but it matters what we are going to make it useful or destructive. It can do wonder for us if it is used carefully. Our speakers will focus on different field of science. So without much ado, I leave this webinar to the expertise knowledge, our esteemed speakers. For your information, the theme for this Science Day is Integrated Approach in Science and Technology for a Sustainable Future. Before we begin this webinar, I would like to express my heartfelt gratitude to all of you who have sincerely committed to this event to make it a success. This event would have been impossible without the support of each and everyone present here. I thank all participants most warmly for your participation and wish you all good day. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Principal Ma'am. Now, just before our speaker speaks, we have somebody who's been the driving force towards organization of such webinars. The person who has made science a well-known thing in the land of Chhattisgarh and Madhya Pradesh, a very eminent personality whose experience I'm not even able to calculate, and that is Dr. Piyush Kant Pandey, who is the director of LCIT Group of Institution. A man who has knowledge about everything. I believe if I ask him to speak on any topic, he'll be the most eloquent speaker that we could ever have. So it is my great pleasure to request our director, Dr. Piyush Kant Pandey, sir, to kindly address us. Sir, over to you.
Yeah, thank you, Avinoji. Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, okay. Thank you very much. So, Honorable Chairman, Vice Chairman, Honorable Principal Dr. Archana Shukla, Honorable Vice Principal Abhinav Paulji, Honorable Abhinav Kishorwani ji, and esteemed speaker today, Satveer Jagwani ji, whom I can see a very smiling face. I think it must be different now for you.
Yeah.
But it's nice that you have joined with us. So I welcome you. And I also welcome our future speakers, I think, who would be joining later, Dr. R.S. Singh and Dr. Anil Kumar Delta. So it's really a matter of great pleasure for me that LCIT College of Commerce, Science, Arts and Law is organizing this Science Day by wonderful series of programs, which are going for, I think, 2-3 days. It will be continuing. And it's very, very important that we need to, give a lot of emphasis on the science, engineering and technology. And in fact, you might remember very recently, we have passed through a pandemic time And you may also remember some very difficult type of names. Tocilizumab was very difficult to hear, like tongue twisting pronunciation was there. Tocilizumab, remdesivir, flavipravir, so many names we were hearing. And you might remember people were ready to pay lakh, 2 lakh, 3 lakh rupees for a single dose of these medicines, which were otherwise very not very so costly. Now, why it so happened? Because most of these medicines were made, patented in American by American pharma companies, and we were not having access to these medicines. So you can remember that in such times when you are facing with the life and death question, then it is only the science, engineering, and technology. These three words which frequently come, they come to the rescue of the mankind for variety of facing these kind of problems. So therefore, it's very important that all of us should give a very proper emphasis on the development of science, engineering, and technology. Now, many people do not understand really the difference between science, engineering, and technology. So briefly, I'll say that basic invention is the realm of the science, where you do the basic invention in the labs, where the most fundamental knowledge is discovered, that is the science. When you convert that into a design for making a production, that design making process is the engineering. And when we convert that design into mass production, it becomes technology. So what is very important is that every country who wants to be self-sufficient, if you don't want to face the fate like Ukraine, what Ukraine is facing today, it is again because they do not have their own strength. Every country need to have their own strength. You cannot depend on any other's strength. So therefore, a very proper emphasis on the development of fundamental knowledge by science, converting into a design by so that you can produce it in the mass, and then ultimately really producing it by technology is very imperative. And therefore, I feel that our LCIT group of institutions is in a wonderful position because we have the College of Science also, we have the College of Pharmacy also, we have the College of Engineering and Technology and Management also. So what we can do is that we can develop a very proper atmosphere where what is developed in the Commerce or Science College can be utilized for the converting into a design into our engineering college and thereby converting ultimately to technology also. That should be the ultimate aim of any institution. Of course, it may not be very easy, but I'm sure that our wonderful speaker like Satveer ji, who knows that what is the, how microbiology, I understand that you're going to speak on microbiology, isn't it, Satveer ji?
Yes.
Application of microbiology. So, that these are the very important area. Ultimately, when I was talking about these pandemics, ultimately it's a realm of the problem of viruses and bacteria only. So we need to be in the health front. We have to be very strong. We have to have a very strong microbiology and biotechnology, environment in our country. Then only we can be in the forefront of the knowledge as well as, the development. So I heartily welcome all our esteemed speakers, and I congratulate the LCIT College of Commerce, Science and Law for this wonderful organization, because they had always been the forefront of taking a lead in such topical issues. So it really gives me a pleasure, and I congratulate all of you for this wonderful organization. So my best wishes, and I'm looking forward to hearing to Satveer Jagwani ji. Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you very much, Director Sir, for your address and your well-informed informations that you always give to us. So thank you very much, sir. Now the time has finally come. The man who matched even his time zone to make the knowledge to be imparted to the children of a very small city, Bilaspur. So it gives me a pleasure to welcome and give a small introduction about the great personality that we have, that is Dr. Satveer Jagwani ji. Dear students and faculties, Dr. Satveer Jagwani
experiments and antimicrobial experiments. He's worked on many projects on development of drug delivery system for various biomedical application and published his scientific data in national and international journals. Well, he has several awards in his bag, but to name a few, he has received the second position in Poster Presentation Award, and he's been awarded International Research Grant from non-ICMR scientists from ICMR, Government of India, and CSIR, and research grant from KLE Academy, from where he was pursuing his knowledge. Sir has attended various workshops and organized many of them, and this also adds up to his workshops kitty. So without taking much of his time, I would now request Dr. Satveer Singh Jagwani ji to kindly address us. Sir, over to you.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Abhinav, for such a nice introduction. Now I'm feeling a little proud of myself because of this introduction. Thank you. So good morning, everyone. I will begin with thanking Dr. Piyush Pandey, Director of LCIT Group of Institution, Principal Dr. Archana Shukla, Vice Principal Dr. Abhinav Paul, LCIT College of Commerce and Science, and Dr. Rashmi, who approached me for this web talk. So, okay, I'll share my screen now. Hope my voice is audible to everyone.
Yes, sir, absolutely.
Okay, yes, thank you. Okay, so like my screen is visible to all of you?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so today is my talk on, especially today is my talk on application of microbiology in the different field of science. So, okay, so let's begin with the presentation. So I'll brief about the microbiology. We know it's a study of a small living organisms which we cannot be visible by the naked eyes. And so the question is, where are the microorganisms? So microorganisms are everywhere on every natural surface. They colonize onto that surface from, ocean to the Earth planet. So whether these organisms are harmful to humans or not harmful to humans. So of course, there are many organisms which are useful for humans. They help not only for the digestion, they also decompose the dead animals and plants, which indirectly help us. They also make a carbon cycle, nitrogen, sulfur, and nitrogen cycle from the terrestrial and aquatic system. So, and they also harmful. They cause diseases in animals, humans, and plants. So microbiology is a very vast area. Basically, it's like, a complete study of the structure, the structure of microorganisms, reproduction, physiology, and so on. So the study, it deals with the study of the distribution of microorganisms in a particular habitat, the relationship with the other living organisms. They have the ability to make the physical and chemical changes. So I would like to ask one question here. Do you know the recent example of any organisms which have this ability to make a changes? The recent example, what we have heard in the news and every day. If anybody can tell me the name of that particular organism, just to interact with you all. Can you hear me? Hello.
Yeah, you're audible.
Yeah, so anybody can, tell me the name of that particular organism, which have recently we heard about it and have the ability to make a physical and chemical changes to external stimuli. Okay, so the name is, of course, COVID virus. So it started with the alpha strain, then beta, and then delta, and now it's Omicron strain. So the organisms have this ability to, change themselves according to external stimuli. So, so these are the microbiology branches. One is theoretical and second is practical or applied microbiology. So these are the sub branches of microbiology, which I'm not going to talk about it. So today I'm going to emphasize on practical or applied microbiology. So these are the different applied branches of microbiology like agriculture, medical, pharmaceutical, industrial, and food microbiology. So let's start with the pharmaceutical microbiology. So I'm going to emphasize more on this pharmaceutical microbiology because I'm from pharmacy background. So we know that the microbiologists play an important role in the drug discovery. And as we can see, the Alexander Fleming and Edward Jenner, these are the scientists or microbiologists who play an important role because they have developed the penicillin. And Edward Jenner, they discovered the first prevent smallpox vaccine. So my question is, what is the role of microbiologists in the pharmaceutical industries? So before I'll go to the next step, I would like to ask from any one of you can explain that what would be the role of microbiologist in the pharmaceutical industry? Any example, anything the microbiologists play a role, an important role? वो लोग क्या करते हैं microbiologist in pharmaceutical industries में? Anyone, any student can give me the example? Okay, I think it will be a little difficult for me. So if you people are hearing me, so at least you can say yes, no, or something like that. So are you people, are my voice is audible to you people? Hello.
Yes, it's very much audible. I don't know about the pharmaceutical industry, but I can surely say that it's the microbiologists who help us to know that comes into our body, and that helps us in understanding what sort of medication needs to be given and what we are actually fighting with. So this is my preliminary knowledge that I have, that microbiology plays in the role of medical sciences.
Okay, so any microbiology student, if who is listening me, so they can they give me the example of any technique they use in the pharmaceutical industry. It's okay, it's fine. So let's go to the next one. So before I'm going to explain the role of microbiologists in the pharmaceutical industry, so we should know a few things about the pharmaceutical plants. So the pharmaceutical plants, it's basically divided in two different plants. One is non-sterile and second is sterile. When it comes to the non-sterile, the final product like capsules and tablet, they have to, that the product contains the microorganism, but within the defined limit according to the pharmacopoeia. Whereas in the sterile products like parenteral or eye drops, they should be free from microorganisms. So these type of final product affect the design of the plant, as each type of them requires spatial limit in construction, air particle size, microorganisms number in air, and water. So these are the acceptance criteria of microbiology quality for a non-sterile dosage form, according to the European Pharmacopoeia. So let's discuss about the role of quality control pharmaceutical microbiologists in pharmaceutical industry. As I said, so the role, I was asking about the microbiologist's role. So here we are going to, know about the role of microbiologists. The one thing they ensure the quality of raw material before they process for the final production area. Second, they monitor the microbiology quality of the environment, air monitoring and water, the water monitoring, and they validate the test, the methods, what is used for the testing the finished product. So these are the few tests like pour plate methods, filtration methods, MPN methods. So these are the few tests which they perform to ensure the quality of the final product in the pharmaceutical industries. For example, pour plate method. In this method, basically they take the sterile Petri plate, they just put the test material onto it, they incubate the plate, and at a given time of interval, they just examine the growth of microbes. Infiltration method.
Hello, Satveer sir. Can I interrupt you for 1 second, sir?
Yes.
Sir, please be bilingual, na Hindi, English, both.
Oh, okay, sure. Okay, it would be very easy for me if I'm going to speak in Hindi, even my English is also little here and there.
No.
So it's fine, yeah. Okay, so in this slide, I'm going to basically explain about the role of the microbiologist in the pharmaceutical industry. Microbiologist का क्या key role होता है pharmaceutical industry में. So the important role of the microbiologist is to ensure the quality. The raw material, what they use in the company, it should be, free from the microorganisms. Pharmaceutical industries में जो microbiologists हैं, basically they do some basic test like pour plate method, filtration method, or MPN method. In pour plate method, they basically take the sterile petri dish जिसमें वो लोग test sample रखते हैं, and then later on they just incubate the plate. They wait for some time, a particular time, and then they examine the plate for the growth of microorganisms. In filtration method, what they do generally, they just pass the test material from the filter, and that filter is incubate in the media in the petri dish for a given time of interval, and after incubation वो उस plate को check करते हैं कि whether there is any growth of microorganisms in that plate or not. And MPN, which is the least used method in industry to to check the quality of the material. In MPN, basically they just they dilute the test material in 3 consecutive concentration, and they keep the consecutive that diluent in the incubator for a given time of interval, and then they just try to evaluate the growth of the microorganisms. So I was talking about the sterile plant. So their microbiologists play an important role where they have to monitor the environment, the surrounding environment of the plant. So one is active monitoring. You know what is active monitoring? Active monitoring, they use the air sampler. Air sampler is a kind of a device, एक type का device है जो उस plant के अंदर जो air है, जो वहाँ पे air रहती है, उसको condense करके वो अंदर ले लेता है. It means that air sampler or the device which collect the air, a predetermined volume of that air, and that air is actually passed on to the petri dish, and that petri dish is incubated inside the incubator for a given time of interval, and then they check the growth of the they examine the growth of the microbes. Second is the passive monitoring. Passive monitoring, they use the settled plate method. What they do for this test, they just keep the sterile petri plate in a different areas of the plant. वो plate को वहाँ पे open करके, they just left over that open plate in some particular areas of the plant, and then they wait for some time, and then again they keep back to the incubator, they incubate the plate, and then they examine the growth of the microorganism. Next is personal monitoring. हम सब लोगों ने देखा है फार्मास्यूटिकल इंडस्ट्रीज में अगर कोई स्टेराइल प्लांट है तो दे कंप्लीटली कवर देमसेल्फ एंड देन ओनली दे गो inside that particular sterile plant to check the production of so and so, to say for the parental, for example. So basically before going inside, they use the sterile swab method where they take the swab, they take the samples from the gloves, they take the samples from the head, from the mask, from the everywhere of the body, and they check, they incubate that particular sample, and they examine the growth of the microorganisms, how they monitor the person who goes inside that plant. The next is wall and floor monitoring. This is it's interesting. They use the Rodak plate. This Rodak plates are actually, I would say, a raised concave type of plate. बीच में से थोड़ी सी उठी हुई रहती है, which is a petri plate only, made up of a media. So वो लोग उस प्लेट को जहाँ जहाँ पे सरफेस रहता है वहाँ पर whether it is the walls or floor, they just contact that plate on the wall and floors, and then they just pack the plate and they put the plate inside the incubator. They wait for some time and they examine that plate for the growth of organisms. Okay, so to clear these concepts, let's watch this video which can tells you how they how they ensure the environmental monitoring in the sterile plants. Okay, so I'm going to show you one video where they how they collect the samples and how they ensure the sterility of the product.
So we are unable to hear this. So if you can do the talking part.
Okay. So you were not okay. Sorry, the voice. I mean to say that audio is not audible.
No, sir.
Okay. Then I'll explain this. Okay. Then I'll just. Okay, so basically in this video, they are trying to show how they have collected the sample. So from starting, they are just, mentioning everything, how they have, got the plates and they're storing. So I'll directly come to the point like where they have started, taking samples. Okay, so here they have start, they just, they do the work in the hood, inside the hoods where the plates cannot be get contaminated. They open the plate by, sanitizing it with the 70% ethanol. So they open the pack inside the hood, they take out the plates. These are the rhodic plates which I was talking about, which are the, they have the rice in the center in a convex manner. So they are just, they are going to take a sample. They have opened the same, how they are like taking the sample from the floor. So they are just contacting that battery plate, the Rhodak plate, and they are just mentioning the, the name of that plate and from where they have taken the samples. And then later on, you can see how they are going to send these samples to for the examination of microbial growth. So they are going to pack the plates.
So what is the material on that plate?
Sorry?
By which the microorganisms are getting attached. What is the material on that plate, sir?
Oh, this is the agar plate.
Okay.
The material is the agar plate only, the base, the media. But the plate is formed in such a way it has a convex, a kind of rice in the center. So it can easily, attach or contact to the floor or to the walls of the particular plant.
Okay, sir.
So these plates are the normal plates what we use for the microbiology study, but the difference is, the shape of the plate. Okay. So yeah, and how they just mention everything in the card and then they send their samples for the examination of the growth of microorganism. Yes, they are just insulating it to protect the samples. They're packing it properly. Nothing should get contaminated. Okay, so this was the video how they take the samples in the sterile plant and what is the role of microbiologists to examine the to ensure the the quality of the material or the quality of the environment. So there is one more video I would like to show you about, like nowadays they are using the continuous environmental monitoring system in pharmaceutical companies, in a sterile pharmaceutical plants. So let's have a look of this video where we are where we will come to know about the continuous monitoring system. Okay, I can understand. In this video, you can just read this whatever they have written in the set. And so in this video, they are going to show how they are going to take the samples from the environment of the aseptic plant. Basically, this environmental monitoring system or continuous environmental monitoring system, it's a software-based instruments where they have install the small sensors which can sense the air of that particular plant, and they can if something is wrong, so they can update in the software, and then we will come to know. So what we call it as a continuous environmental monitoring system. So these are the sensors what they have installed. So this is one of the, the major area where they, they monitor the environment. They have the lot of sensors beside this machine when they fill this, vials. So these are the microbial samplers which are, installed there near the plant. I mean to say, like all over the plant. So which collects the samples, and the microbiologists, these take these samples and they examine for the microbial growth, if any microbial growth is there. So this is like how the sterile pharmaceutical plant works, and the role of the microbiologist in the sterile plant. Okay, so as we have discussed in the previous slide that microbiologists play an important role in the drug discovery and development process, start from the hypothesis till the end of the, till the in vivo human studies or clinical trials. So we know about the Alexander Fleming who discovered the penicillin. We know about the Edward Jenner who, discovered the first smallpox vaccine. So you people know about this, like anyone heard about this news, or who is this person? This is like, this is a Trump president of USA. So he is actually appreciating the person, this lady who's a scientist, who is a microbiologist, Corbus, who played a very important role in the development of COVID vaccine, a Moderna COVID-19 vaccine. Yeah. So now, like we can like come to know the microbiologists play in almost all the field, like they play a very important role in the drug discovery also. So now I'm going to discuss few of my research work where I have used, I mean to say where we have used, of course, where we have used the microbiological technique. And then of course, this microbiological students will come to know how the microbiological techniques can be used in the research also. So in this research work, we have formulated the cranberry juice and we have evaluated its antimicrobial activity against the periodontal pathogen. Might be some of you don't know about the periodontal pathogens. So I will explain in a 1 or 2 line what are the periodontal pathogens. So periodontal pathogens are the microorganisms which actually grow and near the gums or the gap in between the gums, which leads to the inflammation and pain. So that condition basically called a periodontitis, which actually occurred because of these pathogens or organisms. So in this study, we have formulated the cranberry juice gel and we have evaluated its antimicrobial activity against these periodontal pathogens. So in this study, actually, we have performed a couple of microbiological tests like MBC, MIC, well diffusion assay, anti-addition assay, time kill assay, and anti-biofilm assay. Okay, so these are the tests what we have performed in this research work. So we can see this right image. In this image, this is the pictorial presentation, like how we can use this cranberry juice gel inside the gums or the gap or a space in between the gums or the teeth, where generally these pathogens grow, these organisms grow. So in this research, we have I'm going to show you one of the results of well diffusion assay. We also called it as antibiotic susceptibility testing. So from this test, okay, so let me explain you first how we do the well diffusion assay. So in well diffusion assay, basically we take the sterile petri dish which is filled with the media, and that media we add on the microorganisms, some concentration of microorganisms, and we wait for a 24 hours, and then we wait so that bacteria should grow, make a lawn kind of thing onto the plate. And later on in these wells, we add or we keep the cranberry juice gel, and then we'll wait for a 24 hours of incubation period, and then we examine or we check the antimicrobial effect of that particular gel. So from these results, what we found is the similar results, because we have compared the results of the results of the cranberry gel with the marketed or commercially available chlorhexidine gel, which is used for the treatment of periodontal pathogen. So where we got a similar results with that in comparison with the chlorhexidine gel, marketed chlorhexidine gel. So I'm going to discuss one of our research where we have used some microbiology techniques. Is we synthesize the silver nanoparticle and we checked its antimicrobial or antibacterial activity against the burns infection. So we all know, the burns actually damage the skin, and once the skin is damaged, so there is a growth of microorganisms. So due to the growth of microorganisms, there will be a delay in there will be a delay to cure that disease, to cure that problem of the wound. So basically, since ages, they use the silver nitrate gel, which is available, which is commercially available. They use for the infection of burn, but there is a problem. There is a problem with the silver nitrate gel, because this gel is good for antibacterial activity, but still they have a lot of toxic effect. So to look into these effects, we have developed the silver nanoparticles by thinking of making, which can use in a low concentration and give the effective therapeutic effect or good antimicrobial or antibacterial effect against those organisms which play infection role in the burn infection. So this is again a well diffusion result of our study, where where we found the similar effect of silver nanoparticle in comparison with the silver nitrate marketed gel. But one thing is that we have got a similar result, but at a very low concentration of silver is 0.03, whereas the silver nitrate gel which is marketed is 0.2%. So of course we got the good result in this research paper, but this paper was published in 2016, and so now you can see there is a marketed or commercially available silver nanoparticle gel for the infection. So yeah, so okay. So now I'm coming to the importance of medical microbiology. So I think everybody knows about microbiologists who play a very important role in pathology and diagnostic lab. So we should feel thanks to those microbiologists who played a very critical role during the pandemic situation. So because they were completely involved for this for the diagnostic and for the sake of the human. So there is a very great scope of medical microbiologists, and they are not only involved in the drugs discovery, but they are also involved in the diagnostic and preventing or transmission of the disease, like for example, like a COVID. So I really don't know how many of you have heard about this unsung heroes behind the Made in Canada COVID-19 lab test. So this was the news in 2019. आप लोग विश्वास नहीं करेंगे, like the National Microbiology Laboratory is one of the topmost laboratory of microbiology in Canada. और ये एक ऐसी लैब है जहाँ पे सबसे ज़्यादा इन्फेक्शियस डिसीज की खोज होती है, और like for example COVID-19. So these lab, like, it's highly skilled with the scientist who can quickly diagnose the unknown virus. जो वायरस की अभी तक खोज नहीं हुई है, बहुत इजीली उसको मतलब diagnose कर लेते हैं. So these microbiologists, they not only help their country, but they also help to the other country also during that COVID situation. So I would say the work of medical microbiologists is constantly evolving as the new bacteria and infections are identified and categorized every day. Okay, so this is the I would say a history of microbiology. Okay, so मैं बताना चाहूँगा about the Anthony Van. So like Anthony Van, he is the father of microbiology, but I would say he was the businessman actually. So earlier he was the businessman, and then he developed a microscope, and then he only observed the microscope. I mean to say microbes first under the microscope, and then he became the microscopist, microbiologist, and then father of microbiology. So yeah, he was the man behind the microscope. Yes, of course, I would like to mention about the Louis Pasteur, who is the father of medical microbiology, and he is the man who coined the term microbiology. Okay, so the importance of microbiology or microbiologists in the food and dairy industry. I would say the microbiologist who is working with the food-based bacteria, they can work with the Food and Drug Administration to help identify food products that can pose a risk to the human health, and they also can investigate the food poisoning outbreaks. I would like to add on one thing with this. Like, I don't know how many of you remember, there are few mushrooms quality which are mentioned as a poison. So that was the first discovered. I forgot the name of that scientist. So that was the first discovered by one of the microbiologists. So yeah, so that food and dairy industry is like one of the great I would say scope for the microbiologists. Okay, तो हम सब लोग डेयरी प्रोडक्ट्स बहुत भर भर के खाते हैं, इवन एमपी में और छत्तीसगढ़ में तो बहुत खाते हैं. सो आई एम अ ग्रेट फैन ऑफ श्रीखंड, सब लोग खाते हैं. सो आई वुड लाइक टू टेल यू पीपल, लाइक हम लोग सिर्फ काऊ और बफेलो मिल्क नहीं, वी आर ईटिंग लॉट्स एंड लॉट्स एंड लॉट्स ऑफ बैक्टीरिया इन द श्रीखंड, कर्ड एंड लस्सी. सो या, so let's coming to the different another fields of microbiology, like importance of agriculture microbiology and importance of environmental biology. So in agriculture microbiology, definitely there is a study of microbes and crops, and of course microbiologists, they play an important role, and they only tell us about the decomposition of organic waste and different plant diseases, which play a very important role in the agriculture microbiology. The same in the environmental microbiology, degradation of aromatic compounds. This is something new which I heard first time about the exomicrobiology, which is the exploration for life in the outer space. I was not aware of it. And the most important things which is the epidemiology. Epidemiology is the field where the study the incidence, spread, and control of disease. Again, I would like to ask a question from listeners, like, can you please give me a recent example what you have heard from the news of, like, the incidence and spread or control of any infectious disease? Okay, so
COVID.
yeah, of course, COVID-19. Like, I don't know how these I don't know you people aware of it, like people, how they come to know that many patients are, these are the many incidents of the COVID-19. COVID is spreading like anything, and how these many patients are, are in the control condition. How we people come to know, how these media people come to know, because of this
Testing.
epidemic.
They go for testing, I think.
Yes, Dr. Rashmi, they go for the testing, they do the things, but here the
But still,
epidemiologist who
yes.
play the epidemiologist who play an important role, because he's the person who actually collects all the data, and then he put in the research scientific data, explain the things. Like the media is not going to get the information from each and every hospital. Of course not. These are the epidemiologists who just collect the data of everything, and then they put in the internet or in the media. So yeah, at the end of this presentation, I would say, since microbiology is a very diverse, of course, the future is unlimited and beyond imagination in the microbiology. Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity to share my thoughts in microbiology. And please let me know if you people have any question. Please drop a mail. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Satveer.
Yeah, thank you so much.
The good thing about science is that it's true, whether or not you believe in it. This was quoted by Neil Tyson. A very good quote. हम चाहे ना चाहे उसमें विश्वास करना, लेकिन विश्वास करना ही पड़ता है. साइंस ऐसी चीज है, क्योंकि साइंस के पास हर चीज का प्रूफ होता है. हम लोग लैब में खड़े होके हर चीज को प्रूफ कर सकते हैं. अगर कोई बोलता है कोविड इस कोरोना वायरस के कारण है, तो आप माइक्रोबायोलॉजिस्ट वाकई में प्रूफ करके भी दिखाए हो, वाकई में ये है. आप लोग इतने वीडियोस और इतना मैटर पब्लिश किए हो.
Yes, microbiologists, they play an important role. If we start from जैसे मैंने बोला कि एपिडेमियोलॉजिस्ट वो एक आदमी है जो सारा डेटा कलेक्ट करता है, कितना इंसिडेंट्स है, कितने पेशेंट्स हैं. तो हम मीडिया वालों को मिलता है, एंड देन वी कम टू नो कि इतने पेशेंट्स बीमार है. अगर वो लोग अपना टेस्ट कराते हैं तो दे गो टू द लैब, जहाँ पे फिर माइक्रोबायोलॉजिस्ट पैथोलॉजी लैब में वो अपना एक रोल प्ले करते हैं. वो लोग टेस्ट करते हैं, वो लोग हमें बताते हैं इस डिसीज को, इस वायरस को. जिसने फर्स्ट जो लोग इसको इवेल्युएट किए हैं, जो इसको इंश्योर किए हैं, वो लोग माइक्रोबायोलॉजिस्ट थे. जिन लोगों ने इसकी वैक्सीन बनाई है वो माइक्रोबायोलॉजिस्ट थे.
सतीश सर, अब ये एपिडेमियोलॉजिस्ट को पेंडेमियोलॉजिस्ट नहीं बोलते हैं?
No, not pandemiologist. Of course, they call us.
क्योंकि पहले एपिडेमिक फैलता था, अभी ये जो नया फैला ये पेंडेमिक था, तो ये नेम.
Hey Dinesh, you are here. Hey.
Yeah.
Okay. In our webinar, we also have Dr. Dinesh Dhamecha. Very nice to see you, Dr. Dinesh Dhamecha.
Yeah, he is one of my research colleagues. Yeah, he is one of my research colleagues.
Yeah, same here. Thank you very much, madam. So yeah, we are here. So yeah, Satveer gave the presentation this time. मैं ना Satveer ने जितना भी बताया उसमें ना सिर्फ 2 मिनट लेके एड ऑन्स करता हूँ, सो दैट है ना जो माइक्रोबायोलॉजी के स्पेशली जो स्टूडेंट्स हैं. मेरी आवाज आ रही है ना क्लियर?
Wait, Dinesh, wait, let me introduce you first. The audience may be different this time. Dr. Dinesh Dhamecha was here with us in an international webinar 2 years back, and now his laboratory mate, you can say, Dr. Satveer was with us today in the webinar. Dr. Dinesh Dhamecha and Dr. Satveer Jagwani, they both are working on the same principles in USA. Students and the participants and the teachers and the dignitaries over here. We also have Dinesh Dhamecha with us today. They both are since working on the same topic, though they agreed to speak on this topic of microbiology. उन लोग बहुत बड़े साइंटिस्ट है, लेकिन मैंने कहा करके हमको बीएससी और एमएससी के लिए माइक्रोबायोलॉजी के एप्लीकेशंस के ऊपर स्पीच चाहिए था, तो दे अग्रीड फॉर दैट. दैट वाज अ ग्रेट थिंग, एंड आई वुड लाइक टू से दिस थैंक्स फॉर सतवीर सर. वी आर वेरी थैंकफुल टू यू सर फॉर टेकिंग आउट टाइम फ्रॉम योर बिजी शेड्यूल, एंड आई एम ऑल्सो एस्टोनिश्ड क्योंकि अभी यहाँ पर दिन के 10-11 चल रहे हैं और आप लोग के 12 से ज्यादा टाइम हो रहा है वहाँ पर यूएस में. So we are really astonished of your dedication towards advancing the students. और आपका knowledge of microbiology जरूर motivate किया होगा हमारे students को, ताकि वो ये branch higher studies में ले सकें. Over to you, Dr. Dinesh and Dr. Satveer.
चलो, thank you, Dr. Rashmi. Dr. Rashmi is my Masi also actually. So okay, I have a habit of calling her Masi always. Okay. So और वैसे भी सतवीर रोज 12 बजे तक जाता है, तो उसने बड़े अच्छे आराम से प्रेजेंटेशन दिया होगा। चलो बच्चों के लिए एक बात बताता हूँ कि जो भी फर्स्ट ईयर सेकंड ईयर में बच्चे हैं या जिनका ग्रेजुएशन हो गया है, जो मास्टर्स इन माइक्रोबायोलॉजी कर रहे हैं, मैं बताता हूँ। फॉर एग्जांपल जैसे MIC का एक्सपेरिमेंट करते होंगे, मिनिमम इनहिबिटरी कॉन्सेंट्रेशन करते होंगे, या मैक्सिमम बैक्टीरियोसाइडल कॉन्सेंट्रेशन करते होंगे, या वो एक बहुत ही कॉमन एक्सपेरिमेंट है जिसमें हम है ना वेल प्लेट में अगार डालते हैं और फिर बीच में है ना उसको होल बनाते हैं जिसको हम वेल बोलते हैं, और फिर उसके अंदर हम लोग है ना अपने केमिकल्स डाल के टेस्टिंग करते हैं। यही सब टेस्ट यूज होता है फार्मास्यूटिकल इंडस्ट्री में मोस्ट ऑफ द टाइम, है ना। जैसे सतवीर ने अलग अलग तरीके से बताया कि बहुत जगहों पे यूज होता है, तो उसमें एक रिसर्च पेपर में हमने जैसे वो वेल प्लेट मेथड यूज किया है। कल परसों ही यहाँ पे एक प्रेजेंटेशन हुआ था यूएस में, एक यूएस की स्टार्टअप कंपनी है जिसने एक है ना बैक्टीरिया को इन्फेक्शन को कंट्रोल में लाने के लिए एक उन्होंने नया प्रोडक्ट बनाया, उसके लिए भी उन्होंने वेल डिफ्यूजन मेथड यूज किया था। सो आई वुड से कि जितने भी एक्सपेरिमेंट्स कर रहे हो उसके प्रिंसिपल्स अच्छे से पता होना चाहिए। अगर उसके प्रिंसिपल्स पता कर लो और मेथोडोलॉजी और प्रोटोकॉल अंडरस्टैंड करके वो एकदम रटारट कर दो, क्योंकि वो हर बार काम में आएगा। इनफैक्ट इंटरव्यूज में भी वो पूछेंगे। इन केस कभी कभी लगता है कि कोई एडवांस यू ट्राई टू रीड मोर रिसर्च पेपर्स, ऐसे माइक्रोबायोलॉजी के बहुत सारे रीसेंट रिसर्च पेपर्स भी मिलेंगे जिसमें न्यू मेथड्स भी हो सकती हैं। यू ट्राई टू रीड, नहीं समझ में आता है तो हमको ईमेल करिए, हम है ना हम ऐसे बैठे हैं, ऐसे बात करके और फिर उसमें भी क्लैरिटी लाएंगे। एंड इफ यू वांट वी विल मेक अ वेरी स्पेसिफिक प्रेजेंटेशन, बहुत डिटेल्ड वाला, जिसमें माइक्रोबायोलॉजी हो, स्पेसिफिकली ओनली फॉर माइक्रोबायोलॉजी लोगों के लिए।
Thank you, Dinesh.
This was like,
Dinesh, sir,
this was
director
too
sir
broad,
is
yeah.
also there with us.
Oh, great. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really a matter of pleasure for me to hear so wonderful discussions. I am sure these will be very helpful to our staff and students alike. So my best wishes for this one.
Yeah. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Dinesh, Mr. Abhinav Paul is also with us.
Yeah, Abhinav sir,
Abhinav,
I
sir.
still remember. Yeah, he introduces very nicely, I know.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay,
thank you very much.
everyone. Yeah.
Thank you
Thank
so
you very
much.
much, Dinesh. Thank you, Satveer.
Thank you so much.
Yeah,
Thank you
thank
so
you,
much
thank
for
you, yeah.
listening me. And एक बच्चों को बोलना चाहूँगा, माइक्रोबायोलॉजी जो भी माइक्रोबायोलॉजी कर रहे हैं, कभी कभी ड्यूरिंग द ग्रेजुएशन वी थिंक यार इसका क्या स्कोप है या क्या होगा, बट आई वुड से इसका जो स्कोप है वो एंडलेस है। ऐसी कोई फील्ड ही नहीं बची जहाँ पर माइक्रोबायोलॉजिस्ट की रिक्वायरमेंट ना हो। So yeah, thank you so much.
I'll request both of you to kindly share your contact details so that
Yeah,
those
sure,
who
sure.
are interested, they may be able to contact you.
Sure.
Of course.
So our details are with Dr. Rashmi. So yeah, anybody who wants, they can definitely contact us.
Okay,
और
madam,
बहुत ही अर्जेंट कांटेक्ट करना है तो व्हाट्सएप भी कर दो, हम रिप्लाई करते हैं। यूएस है तो कहीं दूर नहीं है, हम वहीं है। ये सतवीर MP का ही है, तो मैंने उसको बोला यू गिव द प्रेजेंटेशन दिस टाइम, वो क्लोज कनेक्शन हो जाता है ना।
that's great. That's really great. That's really great.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Dinesh.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Dinesh. Thank you, Dr. Satveer.
Thank you so much.
I would come up to students. Students, if you have any questions, you all can ask. Students who are in the webinar, if you have any question related to microbiology, you can ask the scientists present here. Any student?
If I may, ma'am.
Yes, sure, sir.
Yes, please,
Yeah,
please, sir.
I'm basically an environmental toxicologist, so I was working on developing certain removal techniques through the microbial bioremediation techniques. But of course, I'm not a microbiologist, that use this one. So ultimately, it did not succeed that well. So can this area be pursued? Like how it can be made better, like remediation through the microbial techniques?
Sir, can you please repeat the main part of the question?
Yeah, basically there are certain areas where some toxic elements are there. For example, arsenic may be there. Some area chromium is also there. So I wanted to develop the bioremediation techniques through the microbial way.
Okay. So what? So are you asking us to check if microbiology can be used to reduce these contaminants?
Exactly. Like certain if you can identify certain local strains available in the natural area, and then culture them and develop them as a technique. Will that be possible through? Can you give any assistance in that area?
Or to evaluate like how they will decompose that particular metal or something like that.
Particularly for what I propose is that, let's say we'll collect the samples, a scanning of the what kind of fauna is there. I mean, what kind of microbial fauna is there, that may be conducted, and most dominant species can be further cultured, and then they can be used to develop the bioremediation technique. That was my this one, but microbiology is not my forte.
Yeah, even I don't know in this area exactly on if it is like for eliminating the heavy metals from any specific sample. I have personally not worked in that area. My work is very specifically to pharmaceutical research and mode of antimicrobial resistance, making antibiotics, testing antibiotics, how that will work for specifically for human use most of the time. Yeah. I'm sorry. Yeah, maybe if you want, you can just send me a draft, and then I try to do some literature and then get back to you. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, that would be great. And
Yeah.
similarly, in fact, our pharmacy faculty and students are probably not well connected today. But they could be having many formulations and these, these one, which can be of exactly of your interest. So maybe I'll try to reconnect you with our pharmacy students also and staff,
anytime.
so that we can have a further discussions on the matter.
Yes, anytime. Yes.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. Any questions from students are welcome now also, or maybe later, whichever way.
Okay, they may put up later. Okay, sir. Thank you, Dr. Dinesh. Thank you, Dr. Satveer. Principal ma'am, you want to be connected with them? Dr. Dinesh, Principal ma'am is here.
Yeah. I can see her.
Thank you, sir, for your kind information for our students, and thank you, sir.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, madam. Thank you. Yeah. Thank you for giving us an opportunity.
बहुत दिनों बाद आपको फिर से देखा हमने.
Yeah. Thank you so much, madam. आपको भी बहुत दिनों के बाद देखा, अच्छा लगा.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Yeah, thank
you so much.
Yeah. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Okay, proceeding for the webinar further. We'll come up for the second speaker of the webinar. Over to Mrs. Pratiksha Pandey for introduction of the next speaker.
Good morning, everyone. I am audible to everyone?
Yes, ma'am.
Good morning. Thank you for joining today's webinar. I am Mrs. Pratiksha Mishra from Department of Physics, LCIT College of Commerce and Science. The topic on today's physics webinar is Nanoscience and Technology for a Better World. We are honored that Dr. R.S. Singh has accepted our invitation as a key speaker. It is a great pleasure for me to introduce our speaker, who is going to talk about nanoscience and technology for a better world. This is a subject in which we should all be deeply interested. Our speaker, although having spent almost his whole career in this field, Dr. R.S. Singh earned PhD degree in physics from National University of Singapore and MTech from IIT Kharagpur. He is presently working as an associate professor of physics at OP Jindal University, Raipur, Chhattisgarh. He has more than 10 years of teaching and research experience in the area of physics and nanoscience, and has published many research papers of high impact factor, including ACS Nano. Now, without any further delay, I would like to invite our speaker, Dr. R.S. Singh. Sir, you may continue. Sir.
Thank you, ma'am, for my introduction. I would like to thank the Honorable Principal Dr. Archana Shukla, the convener Mrs. Abhishek, co-convener Dr. Rasmi, and all members of organizing committee to organize this important webinar and invite me for it all. I'm going to talk on nanoscience and technology for a better world. The advances in technology have facilitated us a lot, making our life easier and more comfortable. Through this talk, I'm going to discuss fundamentals of nanoscience and its applications in various fields. So my talk will cover introduction, history of nanoscience, how the nanoscience was developed day by day, and what exactly the nanoscience is, and how it is influencing the properties of materials. And finally, I shall be discussing applications and outlook, means what we are expecting from nanoscience in future. Nanoscience and technology has pervaded almost all areas of science and technology, including electronic and optoelectronic devices, energy, sensors, biological and medical fields. In these fields, nanoscience is increasingly playing an active role by increasing the efficiency of devices or by improving device design and performance. The nanoscience has been realized a long time ago. This is not the new. In year 500 to 1400, the stained glasses that you can see here in church has different colors. That is because of the nanoparticles. You can see here the red colors is because of the 20 nanometer gold nanoparticles, while the orange color is because of the 80 nanometer gold nanoparticles. So it has been realized long time ago in history. Subsequently, in year 800 to 1600, nanoparticles can also be used in pottery. These potteries has utilized nanoparticles having different designs and colors. In year 1200 to 1700, the Damascus steel swords that you can see here, you must have seen it in movie or pictures. So this specific design and colors is also the utilization of nanomaterials. In 1910, particle size was described in the length scale nanometers. And subsequently, in 1959, the famous Feynman's speech is given. The principles of physics, as far as I can see, do not speak against the possibility of maneuvering things atom by atom. And this nanotechnology was first coined by Taniguchi in 1974. Taniguchi is the popular scientist from Japan who defined the nanotechnology and give it the name nanotechnology. And in 1981, the atoms was first visualized by the instrument called STM, scanning tunneling microscopes, where you can see the size of the atoms. You can directly visualize the atoms using this very sophisticated instruments, and that has advanced the nanotechnology enormously. In 1986, the famous writer from America, Richard Drexler, wrote a book named Engines of Creation, The Coming Age of Nanotechnology. The book states that nanotechnology is the principle of atom manipulation, atom by atom, through control of structure of matter at molecular level. It details the ability to build molecular system with atom by atom precision, yielding a variety of nano machines. So this book has detailed a lot about nanotechnology, and which was published in 1986 by a American writer named Richard Drexler. So that was the history of nanoscience, and now we shall discuss what exactly the nanoscience is and what is its length scale we can consider as nanomaterials, or we can study in what nanoscale we are going to regime of nanoscience. So nanoscience is the science which deals nanostructures or nanomaterials at nanometer dimensions. What is nanometer? 1 nanometer is 10 power minus 9 meter, or that is 1 billionth of a meter. 1 nanometer is nothing but 1 billionth of a meter. What is a nanostructure? Structure with at least one dimensional less than 100 nanometers. So all the structures, sizes, features which are below 100 nanometers are considered as nanomaterials. So let us understand it with examples. Very interesting examples here. A human fingernail grows 1 nanometer in every second. This nail must be growing, that you have realized in your daily life. It grows 1 nanometer in every second. In 1 second, it grows 1 nanometer. A man's beard grows 5 nanometers in every second. So this much very small size is called nanometer. And this is the picture. You can see this is the picture of a hair, our hair. And on the hair, there is a silver nanowire sitting on the hair. This is the picture. Silver nanowire. The picture of the hair, this bar diagram is 20 micron, and this is silver nanowire. So this is silver nanowire resting on a human hair. So this is how much small is here. This is SEM. This is TEM picture, transmission electron microscopy. You can visualize the nanometer features. So now the next question is why we are interested to study nanoscience or technology. What advantage we are going to get? Since the particles are small, so one of the advantages is what increases high surface to volume ratio. Means if you prepare a material that will have more surface energy, more surface atoms react differently. And because of that, the surface will react differently compared to the bulk material. Act differently means new property will come into picture. Interact with light differently. The light and nanomaterial interaction will be different. And nanomaterials on the scale of small biological structures. Many biological structures like DNA, RNA, biological molecules are in the range of nanometers. So if we use the nanomaterials, then that can efficiently interact with biological atoms and molecules, and then that give you lots of information, and that will be used in application of diagnostics and treatment. And in nanoscience, the quantum mechanics comes into picture. Means quantum mechanics meet classical mechanics. You have to have the concept of quantum mechanics to explain the various theories behind the influence in different properties. Interesting new structures can be built using nanomaterials. Interesting materials with nanoparticles can be embedded with new functionalities and properties. So all these structural differences and property evaluation will lead to the faster devices, much lighter devices, much compact devices you can fabricate, and cheaper as well, and more energy efficient devices can be fabricated using nanomaterials, means utilization of nanoscience and technology. Let us see another example. In electronics field, nanotechnology improves miniaturization. What is miniaturization? Miniaturization is increasing the number of devices on a chip by reducing the size of the devices. So what will happen if you reduce the number of devices on a chip. That will improve the performance of the devices as well as cost of the devices, because more number of transistors you can build on a particular area of the chip, particular area of the wafer, for example silicon, and that will improve the performance, for example speed, as well as reduce the cost as well. Let us see this graph. This has been published in Materials Today. So this is the calendar year how the nanotechnology has been advanced. So earlier we have 10 micron feature size, 1 micron feature size. Now we have transistor gate length below 100 nanometer, like 90 nanometers, 65 nanometers. So the year by year, the nanotechnologies has been advanced enough, and what it will affect here, you can see that this second graph, right side, the transistor cost on y-axis in dollar, and this is a red color vertical line lithography cost. So if we reduce the size, the transistor cost is reducing day by day. From 1917 to 2000, it has been reduced from $1 to 10 to the power minus $7. Means 7 order of reduction in cost of the transistor. If you reduce the size, you go for nanomaterials. Same way, other way, it is also increasing the fabrication cost, lithography cost, to fabricate such nanomaterials, nano features design in our devices. So overall, we are improving the performance and cost of the devices. So let us see a very interesting examples of nanomaterials, how the nanomaterials is different from the bulk materials. The famous example that we use in our daily life, that is the cosmetic cream. Zinc oxide particles is used in sunscreen. So here is the picture. You can see here, this is the white color zinc oxide is the bulk zinc oxide. That is not the nanomaterials, which appears white. So that we cannot use on our face or anywhere as a sunscreen cream. So the same material, when you make it in nanoscale zinc oxide materials appears clear. It's totally transparent. You are looking even fairer compared to the earlier, but here if you use the bulk zinc oxide, it appears white, and we cannot use that bulk, although both block the harmful radiation. The sunscreens is used to protect against UV radiation, but the bulk zinc oxide we cannot use. We need to use the zinc oxide nanoparticles that is being used in our sunscreen, and which changes the optical property of that and make it clearer, so we can apply on our face or wherever we want. So this is very interesting example that you can realize how nano materials are playing a very important role compared to the bulk material. If you go to the nanometer size, so what will happen? The one thing that we have already discussed, surface to volume ratio will be enhanced. The surface energy is enhanced. Surface energy increases with surface area. Large surface energy means there will be instability, and to reduce the instability, more and more atoms will come on the surface. Means percentage of atoms on the surface will be increased if you reduce the size of the material. If you go for nanometer size, you can see here the graph, the sizes, when sizes is reducing, the percentage of surface atoms is increasing. This picture is also showing the same thing. So that's what happened if you go from micrometer to nanometer range, means if you go for nanoscience and nanomaterial. Structural differences result into change in physical property, and these structural differences will influence the various physical, chemical, and electronic properties. For example, high percentage of surface atom, spatial confinement. What do you mean by spatial confinement? Means the particles are confined either in one directions, two directions, or all three directions. For example, quantum dot, where particles are confined in all three directions, X, Y, G. Quantum wire, where particles are confined in two directions. Quantum well, that is two-dimensional structures, where particles are confined in one direction. So spatial confinement also occurs, that is called quantum confinement if we go for nanomaterials. Reduced imperfections. Very less number of atoms and molecules are there in nanomaterials, that will also reduce imperfections or defects in the material, and that is directly dependent on the performance of the material in the devices. We can also visualize what properties are affected, other properties, mechanical, optical, and how you can utilize for different applications. And we can also tune the property. We can change the property if you reduce the size. For example, let us see the physical parameter melting point, how the melting point is changing if you reduce the size from 20 nanometer to around here 1 nanometer. So melting point is decreasing when you are reducing the size of the materials. So physical properties changed. Electronic properties. Let us see the electronic property. You must have known what is band gap, what is conduction band, valence band. So in case of metal, this is conduction band, this is valence band, and there is no gap. Metal has no band gap, means both the bands are overlapping. In insulator, we have a large band gap between conduction band and valence band. In case of semiconductors, we have a smaller band gap between conduction band and valence band. So what will happen this semiconductor if you reduce its size? For example, silicon, bulk silicon we already know, make it nanosilicon. Make it nanoparticles of the silver. So what will happen? How the electronic property will be changed? So one thing which is changed in case of semiconductor is there is an increase in band gap. See here, this is semiconductor, this is bulk semiconductor. Nano semiconductor, if you reduce the size, the band gap of the same material will be increased. And band gap is directly related to the optical property, optical absorptions. So the color of the material and different optical property will also be changed if you reduce the size in nanometer. This is also very interesting pictures of butterfly you can see here. This is the picture in bulk in resolution 1x. We keep on reducing the size with magnification to 20x, 5000x and 20,000x. So what you can see here, you can see the structural features are changing, the color is also changing. The color is also changing. These optical properties of the same material is changing if you are reducing the size. It looks different color, this one is looking different color, and finally this is looking different color. And how it is happening? Because the size dependent diffractions takes place, reflection takes place. So for example, if you are using visible light for visualize the pictures, so the wavelength of the visible light is much smaller than the nanometer structures that you are viewing. That's why its color is changing. And this concept of optical changes due to nanometer dimensions is used for various applications. For example, photonic crystals, and another important physical phenomenon called surface plasmon resonance is also used for absorptions of light, UV, visible or any kind of light for various applications. And quantum dot fluorescence. Quantum dots having different sizes have different fluorescence properties in different energy range. So let us see what is surface plasmon resonance. The interaction applied with metallic nanoparticle surfaces, coupling of free electrons and incident light, localized coherence oscillation of electrons, tunable optical properties of nanostructure depends on size and shape and composition in environment. What is the surface plasmon resonance? When we incident light on a metallic particles, the vibration of that particular particles matches that the wavelength of the light we are incidenting, then there will be resonance. And at resonance, the amplitude of absorption will be increased. So that light will be absorbed. That is called surface plasma resonance. So this concept, this phenomenon happens in case of nanoparticles, metallic nanoparticles, surface plasma resonance. And so wherever we want material to utilize for more absorption, for example, in solar cells. So this concept can be utilized, like nanoparticles, metallic nanoparticles can be coated on solar cells for more absorptions of light, and hence to improve the efficiency of the solar cells. So this is what happens in case of nanomaterials. You can see here the color is changing. When you reduce the size, the nanocell, this is the nanocells, the thickness is reducing, the color is also changing. Nano cases, the same thing. In thickness and nanomaterial sizes, different nanomaterial sizes have different colors, means optical property is changing. The most popular example, quantum dot. Look at this, bigger is redder. The bigger quantum dots looks redder. A smaller is looking with different colors. You can see here, 7.5 nanometer quantum dot looking red color. And if you reduce the size from 7.5 nanometer to 2.1, the color is changing monotonically. And this is the actual picture of the quantum dot in a solvent, which have different colors. This optical property is changing because band gap is changing. Quantum dot is a semiconductor quantum dot. It has certain band gap, and if you reduce the size, its band gap is increasing, and so its optical property is also changing. So in quantum mechanics, what is happening is tunable optical properties you can achieve using this quantum dot, that is the example of nanomaterials. This is some unique nanostructures that you must have heard, must have seen. The most popular nanomaterials is carbon nanotubes. This is just a single layer of carbon wrapped in a tube form. Bulky ball, that is also C60, means 60 atoms are covalently bonded in a spherical ball. That is called bulky ball. That is also a unique structure of nanomaterials. And most recently discovered graphene, that is just a one layer of carbon. This is only two-dimensional structure. Carbon nanotube is one-dimensional structure. This is zero-dimensional structures. And the nano geolites has important applications as membrane, where nanopores has been used to filter various kind of contaminants in water that I will discuss in our next slides. So these structures you have studied, I think you must have heard or seen somewhere. You can synthesize this structure and utilize for various applications that I will discuss in our subsequent slides. So now the next question is how to prepare these nanomaterials and how to fabricate it in devices, utilize in devices. So there are mostly two approaches which has been used to fabricate nanomaterials. One is top-down approach and other is bottom-down approach. Top-down means you have to start with a bulk material, a very big size material, and keep on reducing its size either by patterning, lithography, or any other way, starting with a large part of and carving away a material. For example, you must have heard this ball milling machine. In ball milling machine, we start with a powder of micron size. So if you have that ball milling, keep on reducing the size from micrometer particle size of the powder to the nanometer particle size. So that would be the top down. It's coming from the bulk material, big sizes, to nanometer sizes materials. In nanotechnology, chips for computers are made by using acid to dissolve away unwanted material to get right pieces. So lithography, all these fabrication processes will also come into this picture. Means we have a whole wafer that we pattern that into a very small sizes, nanometer 1 to 100 nanometer sizes, features any length, lateral or vertical length, and fabricate millions of transistor or devices on the same chip that we use in our laptop and other electronic devices, smartphones, and so on. So this is the approach what is adopted to prepare nanomaterials or nanostructures. Another approach is bottom up. Bottom up, that just opposite to the top down, means starting with atoms and molecules, very small particles, atoms and molecules, starting from atoms and molecules and go for some agglomeration of these atom molecules to give a nanometer features. For example, you grow a crystal, so CVD method, chemical vapor deposition method, where you flow some precursors like gas, and that gas atom in the form of atoms and molecules react on the surface and form a very small thickness film in nanometer thickness. So that is the bottom up approach, building something by assembling smaller parts, for example building a car engine or Lego. So this much approach has been widely used to fabricate nanowires like silver or carbon nanotubes. This is the picture of the silver nanowires. You can see on right side, you can see the pictures of carbon nanotubes. The sol gel methods and other CVD methods can be used. That is bottom up methods where atoms and molecules react on the surface and go for nanometer features. Starting from atoms and molecules, go for some nanometers features. That is called bottom up approach to fabricate such interesting nanomaterials. Now I'm going to discuss various applications of these nanomaterials, and one of the important application is health. The nanomaterials are being used in diagnostics of various kind of diseases, cancer treatment, the most popular application of these nanomaterials, and targeted drug delivery. The conventional cancer treatment, you can see there is no targeted drug delivery. It goes throughout our whole body, and so your whole body is affected by that particular medicine, and that has some side effect. But nanoparticles has made it possible that you can go for targeted drug delivery. So wherever the cancer cells are there, it will selectively go there and cure that and unaffect the other part of the body, and that is more efficient way to treat the cancer. Other interesting applications of nanomaterials are sport industry, cosmetic industry, and clothing industry. In clothing industry, the various type of waterproof jackets, clothes are already available in the market, which utilizes nanoparticles. In cosmetic industries, that I have already shown one example, sunscreens, where zinc oxide nanoparticles and titanium dioxide nanoparticles are used to prepare these sunscreens, which make it clear and used to protect UV light. Various kinds of clothing, for example, socks here. These socks uses silver nanoparticles. Silver nanoparticles are added in socks, and the silver nanoparticles has antibacterial activity and kills the bacteria. So odor-free or smell-free. The socks produces bad smells. So if you use the silver nanoparticles based socks are already in the market, that reduces the bad smells from the socks and pants and other garments there. So already nanoparticles has lots of applications in clothing industry as well. In sports industry, various sports equipments like rackets, tennis balls, golf sticks, hockey sticks, the nanoparticles are being used. The most popular carbon nanotube and carbon nanofibers are being used in rackets and hockey sticks and these golf sticks, which improves its strength and make it much lighter. So and nanomaterials are also used on golf ball or tennis balls. For example, the nanoparticles coating on the golf will allow it to fly along a straight path. Some nanoparticles are coated on this golf ball that allow this ball to fly in a straight path and avoiding any uneven spin. That's what we want in golf. So that is being utilized in various kind of equipments used in sports industry. And this much is already familiar with you that you are using in your daily life. The faster processing of computers is result of nanotechnology. Much smaller. Now we have all the features, computers features are in a very small devices called smartphone that we are using in our daily life. All the computer features are now embedded in smartphones. So how it was possible? That it's shown in my previous slide, the miniaturization means more number of devices we can fabricate on a small area of the chip, making the devices compact, lighter, and faster. So that's what the result of nanotechnology. Nanotechnology has also impact in environment. It has application in environment and its protection. The conventional energy that we use for different purposes is the fossil fuel based energy like coal or petroleum or oil that produces lots of contaminants in the environment and creates health issues for the society. So how the nanotechnology is solving this problem? Using nanotechnology, we can fabricate solar cells. That is the cleaner energy. It does not produce any contaminants in the environment. Better energy storage devices like batteries and supercapacitor. Nanomaterials can be used in better energy storage devices like supercapacitor and battery, where it improves the efficiency of the devices as well as durability of the devices. Water treatments, the wastewater, the domestic water that we have that can be purified using nanomaterials. For example, the geolites, the nanopores in geolites has been used as membrane to filter the water to get the potable water or drinkable water. Similarly, the magnetic nanoparticles are being used to remove various kind of contaminants in water like arsenic, iron, magnesium, and other organic contaminants. So the wastewater or the waters from river, sea, ponds or rainwater can be further purified to make it drinkable or potable, and that is very useful applications of nanoparticles or nanomaterials. So in future, what we are going to look for, what we are expecting from nanotechnology? In future, more efficient and low-cost solar cells are expected so that we don't have to depend on the conventional electricity power plant where we produce lots of contaminants in the environment and creates health issues for the society. So we need to replace this conventional energy sources, energy conversion process using that coal or petroleum to the low-cost solar cells that is more efficient and good for health. Printable and flexible batteries. In future, we are expecting the printable and flexible batteries means we can print batteries even on our clothes or any plastic substrate, any plastic material, car and anywhere. So we can utilize that battery efficiently for charging or, for example, smartphones and variety of other applications. Harnessing power using nano generator. Nano generator means even nano power is there. It produces nano pico power. It produces very small power, like we are speaking, we are running. So that source of energy can be utilized using nano generators. So variety of various kind of applications. Carbon aerogels. Carbon aerogels is the lightest material. It has many applications in buildings and ultra capacitors, very large surface area. So ultra capacitors, that is energy storage devices that is expected in future based on the carbon aerogels. Fuel cells with better durability and efficiency. Nanotechnology also helping to develop fuel cells for electric vehicles that we are expecting in future, and it is also under the process, but not the fully developed. So the problem is the efficiency of the fuel cell and its durability, how long we can use for the fuel cells. So nanotechnology, they're also helping a lot to improve the durability and efficiency of the fuel cells. And another future prospects of the nanotechnology is the NASA has developed a space elevator to orbiting station. So it's more easy to monitor the planets and satellites using this orbiting stations made by, that NASA is working on this project, and that is also based on nanotechnology. Nano antennas. Nano antennas absorbs energy in infrared parts of the spectrum and can take in energy from both sunlight and Earth's heat. It can take energy from both sunlight and Earth's heat. Means if there is no sun, even if you can utilize that solar cell if you use nano antennas with higher efficiency, much higher efficiency than conventional solar cells like silicon-based solar cells. So we are expecting this nano antenna to be utilized in our conventional solar cells to get much improved efficiency and much improved efficiency and durability. Individual nano antennas can absorb close to 80% of available energy. See, this is something like nano antennas, like some metal nanostructures. So here some surface resonance absorption will take place, and that's why it's called nano antenna, and more absorption will be there. So that will improve the efficiency of the solar cells. So we are expecting such technology in future. That is nothing but because of the nano science. Nanotechnology for transmission. Nanotechnology may help improve the efficiency of electricity transmission wires. Today, aluminum conductor steel reinforced ACCR wire is the standard overhead conductor against which the alternatives are compared. The development of new overhead conductors is expected to increase the capacity of existing rows by 5 times that of ACSR wire at current cost. Currently, we are using ACSR, but recently the 3M Corporation, that is company, has developed a nanomaterial-based metal matrix overhead. This is the transmission line developed by 3M Corporations, which has made overhead conductor known as aluminum conductor composite reinforced ACCR, where this is the aluminum based and where some nanoparticles are embedded, which is designed to resist heat sag and provide more than twice the transmission capacity of conventional conductors of similar size. So if you use this nanomaterial based transmission line, then transmission capacity is expected to improve twice that of the conventional conductors of the similar size. So this is another application we are expecting in future. These are the acknowledgement and resources that I have used for my PowerPoint presentation. Thank you. If audience have any question, they can raise the question.
Thank you so much, sir, for this informative and interactive session. Anyone have any question? Kindly put on the chat box. Sir, I think no one have any doubt. This session is very informative to everyone. On behalf of the LCIT family, I would like to thank the respected speaker, Dr. R.S. Singh, who took out his valuable time and accepted our invitation. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.
This is very informative.
Thank you all, thank you audience, and thank you the organizing committee, and thank you everyone. Thanks.
Madam, over to you, Rashmi ma'am, Dr. Rashmi ma'am.
Thank you, Pratiksha ma'am. Continuing with the webinar, I would now like to welcome Dr. Anil Kumar Delta sir from Ranchi. First of all, I would like to introduce sir. Dr. Anil Kumar Delta has 25 years of teaching experience. He joined as assistant professor at Marwari College, Ranchi, Ranchi University in 1996. Sir joined as principal at Adarsh College, Rajdhanwar, Vinoba Bhave University, Hazaribagh, Jharkhand in December 2017. Sir then joined as associate professor at PG Department of Chemistry, Ranchi University, Ranchi in August 2018. At present, Sir is working as head of the department, PD Department of Chemistry, Ranchi University, Ranchi. His topic today is of mass spectroscopy and its application. Sir has 2 PhD awardees and at present 8 research scholars are working with him. Sir has got many publications at national and international levels. Welcome very much, sir, to the LCIT family.
Thank you, madam, for introducing me. And I would like to thank the organizing committee of the webinar and the LCIT college family. I am really thankful to the principal madam, Dr. Archana Shukla, the convener of the webinar, Mr. Abhishek Kesarwani, co-convener, Dr. Rasmi Charyani, head, chemistry department, Mrs. Pratiksha Pandey, head, department of physics. And I would like to say thank you to all the audience present and join the webinar. My topic of webinar today is mass spectroscopy and its application. As a spectroscopy is a very fundamental technique for students doing BSc courses from physics as well as chemistry. At graduation level, this particular technique is being introduced in classes. The initial spectroscopic techniques like IR, UV, NMR is taught to some extent at undergraduate level, but mass spectroscopy is actually generally introduced in different universities at post-graduation level. So today I will discuss this particular topic and its application. So this mass spectroscopy has some advantages over other spectroscopic technique. This particular technique is useful for determination of a structure of molecules. It measures molecular weight of molecules with high accuracy. It detects the places within the molecule at which the molecule prefers to fragment. And this technique is highly sensitive and requires very small quantity of sample. So actually, other techniques like IR, UV, and NMR is also used for determining the structure of compound, but this technique is useful in determining the structure as well as determining the molecular weight of compound, and of course the structural aspect of compound, like what is the structure, how the atoms in the molecules are being joined, that is being known by the fragmentation patterns. And of course, for other techniques, some measurable amount of, substantive amount of substances or compound is required, whereas mass spectroscopy requires very small quantity of substance. But as far as advantages are concerned, there are some disadvantages also. One important disadvantage in terms of research work is that this spectroscopy, during this spectroscopy, actually the sample taken is destroyed. As the sample undergoes fragmentation. So this is the advantages and some disadvantages of this particular technique. So on what particular principle this spectroscopy works? So mass spectroscopy is based on the principle in which sample or molecule is bombarded with high energy electrons which knock off an electron from the sample, leading to a positively charged radical cation that I symbolizes with M here. So the reaction we can write down as M bombarded with high energy electron gives M radical ion with ejection of 2 electrons. This radical ion, being highly energetic, may fragment further, giving a smaller fragments as shown. So this radical ion can further fragment as a cation and a radical, or some other cation and a radical, depending upon at what position the fragmentation is going on. This molecular radical ion can undergo fragmentation in this particular manner or another particular manner, like it may give another radical ion with some neutral molecule. So this way fragmentation takes place. The radical ion and other fragments are separated according to their M/Z ratio, where M is the mass and Z is the charge on the ion. Generally, Z is 1. At times, Z can be 2 also, but in most of the mass spectra of compounds, Z is generally 1. So the record of M/Z value of these species versus their relative abundance is known as mass spectrum. That means when we record the mass spectra, it is a plot between M/Z values of different species versus their relative abundance. So important thing in mass spectroscopy is that during fragmentation, different type of species like radical ion, some cations, some free radicals, some neutral molecules are formed. But important is neutral particles like uncharged molecule or free radicals cannot be directly detected in mass spectrometer. Bombarded electrons have high energy, that is of the order of 70 electron volt, which is much more than ionizing energy of most compound. Ionizing energy of most compound is in between 8 to 13 electron volt. So bombarding electron has much larger energy. Radical cation is also known as molecular ion or parent ion. That means the molecule from which one electron is ejected and the parent molecular ion is formed. So that is also called parent ion or molecular ion. In the mass spectra, the peaks are in terms of sharp line. So the peak of highest intensity is called base peak. The intensity of base peak is assigned a value of 100, and the intensity of other peaks are expressed relative to that of base peak. This will be clear when we will discuss the subsequent slides. So these are some important facts related to mass spectroscopy. So one important aspect of mass spectroscopy is that the molecules, generally organic molecules, which contain, say, carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen, sulfur, and halogens generally. So these have molecular ion peaks at, say, some molecular mass. That molecular ion peak at some molecular mass, that is called M peak. But in the mass spectra of some compounds, we find peaks at M+1, M+2, M+3, along with molecular ion peak. So what is the reason for that? So the reason for that is the elements present in those compounds may be existing in isotopic form. So the origin of these peaks can be understood if we take into account the natural abundance of constituent atoms. So most of the elements exist in nature as predominantly one isotope, but some elements exist as more than one isotope. So I have given a table here for, say, natural abundance of isotopes of some elements. So like the hydrogen that exists in two isotopic form, hydrogen 1 and hydrogen 2. So hydrogen 1 has relative abundance of about 99.985, whereas hydrogen 2 has relative abundance as 0.015%. So likewise, carbon 12 exists in carbon 12 and carbon 13 form. So carbon 12 exists in 98.89%, whereas carbon 13 say 1.11%. Likewise, nitrogen has two isotopic form, nitrogen 14, nitrogen 15. The relative abundance is given here. Likewise, oxygen 99%, oxygen 16, say 0.04%, oxygen 17, and 0.2% oxygen 18. Likewise, sulfur exists in different isotopic form. Fluorine does not exist in isotopic form, whereas chlorine exists in two isotopic form, that is chlorine 35 and chlorine 37. Chlorine 35 has relative abundance as around 75.5%, whereas chlorine 37 has relative abundance of 24.5%. Likewise, bromine, it exists in two isotopic form, bromine 79 and bromine 81. Bromine 79 has relative abundance of say 50.5%, whereas bromine 81 also has relative abundance of say 49.5%. So what is the importance of this isotopic abundance, and what type of say mass spectra is observed when certain elements existing in isotopic form is present in the compound. So that will be seen in next slide. So here are some mass spectra. The first one is mass spectra of ethanol, this one. So in the mass spectra of ethanol, ethanol has molecular mass of 46. So there is a peak on this m by z value 46, but there is a peak at m+1 also. So there is another peak as 30, so that I will discuss later on. So in ethanol, if we have m peak along with m+1 peak, so that may be due to one of the hydrogen atom of ethanol is existing in isotopic form, or some carbon atom is existing in carbon 13 form, or some oxygen atom is existing in oxygen 17 form. So if the mass spectra of ethanol is showing m peak along with m+1 peak, that means some of the elements, either carbon, hydrogen, or oxygen, is existing in its isotopic form, having one mass unit more. So one interesting thing also can be visualized from the mass spectra of these two compounds, that is, say, bromomethane, and another is a mass spectra of chlorine containing compound. So in the mass spectra of bromomethane, so bromomethane, in the mass spectra of bromomethane, we have say two peaks at m by z 94 and m by z 96. So if bromine is existing in say isotopic form 79, then the peak should be at 94, and if bromine is existing in 81, then the peak should be for m+2, that is at 96. So these two peaks existing at 90 and 96, 94 and 96, so this shows that the bromine atom has relative abundance almost in equal proportion. So in the previous table, we have seen that bromine 79 exists as 50.5% and bromine 81 exists in nature as 49.5%, and that's why the relative intensities of M peak and M plus 2 peak is almost the same. So that means if the element existing in isotopic form is present in compound, the peak like M plus 1, M plus 2 or M plus 3 peaks is present, these peaks have intensity in the ratio of the elements existing in nature in its isotopic form. So as bromine has almost equal proportion in terms of existence in isotopic form, so M peak and M plus 2 peak in bromoethene is almost of identical intensity. Likewise, if a molecule has a chlorine atom present in it, then its mass spectra, in its mass spectra, there will be M peak here and M plus 2 peak here. But the ratio of intensity of this M peak and M plus 2 peak in compound having chlorine atom present will be in the ratio, say 3:1. So as chlorine exists, chlorine 35 exists as 75.5% and chlorine 37 as 24.4%. So it is almost in the ratio. That means intensity of peak at M and M plus 2 will be in the ratio 3:1. So isotopic abundance of element is responsible for giving peaks at say M plus 1, M plus 2, M plus 3, and the intensity of these peaks is in the ratio of their relative abundance. So then there is an important term in mass spectroscopy is metastable ion. So what are metastable ions? The ions producing broad peaks at non-integer M by Z value in mass spectra are called metastable ions. So certain peaks in the mass spectra of some compounds are obtained at non-integer M by Z values. So these peaks are generally broad, and these peaks are due to metastable ions present during the recording of mass spectra. So metastable ions have generally low kinetic energy than normal ions. So where these metastable ions are formed, so these are formed during to fragmentation that take place during the flight down in the ion tube rather than the ionization chamber. So in the mass spectrometer, there is an ionizing chamber. Compound is inserted in form of gases. At that particular place, the high energy electrons are bombarded with those gaseous molecules, and at that in that particular chamber, the ionization takes place. From there, the ion formed are being accelerated, and these are say directed towards the recorder. So through a tube that is called ion tube. So these metastable ions are formed during the flight down from ionizing chamber to ion tube. So these are not formed in the ionization chamber itself. So these are formed in the intermediate pathway. So as far as metastable ions are concerned, how we will realize what are metastable ions and how these are formed. So I have taken one example to say explain this. So if we take the fragmentation of toluene molecule, so this toluene molecule, after losing one electron, this is say generated as molecular ion, it loses one hydrogen atom giving benzyl carbocation. This benzyl carbocation rearranges to give tropylium ion. So tropylium ion has M by Z value as 91, and this loses one acetylene molecule to give this cyclic pentavalent cation. having M by Z value 65. So in case the decomposition of fragmentation of tropylium ion to cyclic pentavalent ion occurs after the acceleration before reaching the magnetic analyzer, the metastable ion peak at M by Z 46.4 is formed. So actually the mass value of metastable ion is calculated in terms of the ratio of square of the mass of the last fragment to that of the mass of the fragment from which the last fragment is formed. So this mass of the metastable ion is equal to M2 square, that is mass of cyclic pentavalent cation divided by the mass of the original cation, that is tropylium ion, from which this particular cyclic pentavalent ion is formed. So this is M2 square divided by M1. So that comes out to be, say, 46.4. So this is non-integer value. So if we record the mass spectra of toluene, we find a broader peak of low intensity at non-integer M by Z value, that is 46.4. That is due to, say, formation of metastable ion during the recording of mass spectra of toluene. So in the, say, spectra of some compounds, some broad peaks at non-integer values are being seen. So those peaks are due to metastable ions formed during the recording of mass spectra of such compounds. So the most important thing in the mass spectroscopy is fragmentation pattern of molecules. So during recording of mass spectra, molecules get fragmented. So firstly, the molecule is converted into molecular ion, and molecular ion formed undergoes fragmentation. So fragmentation involves loss of free radicals or small neutral molecules from the molecular ion. But the most important thing in fragmentation process is fragmentation does not take place in random way. Rather than it takes place in such a fashion that most stable fragments possible are formed. So a molecule can be fragmented in different ways, but what will be the fragmentation pattern, that will be decided by the, say, intermediates that will be formed during fragmentation. So it will fragment in such a manner that more stable fragments will be formed. So taking example of fragmentation pattern of some organic molecule, I have taken some example. The first example is fragmentation of normal hexane. So normal hexane, that is a straight chain hydrocarbon. So molecular ion of this can fragment between first two carbon atoms, or it can fragment between second and third carbon atom, or between third and fourth carbon atom. So depending upon that, we will get the mass spectra of normal hexane. So the base peak, that means the peak of highest intensity. So if hexane undergoes fragmentation between second and third carbon atom, this second and third carbon atom, so it will give butyl cation and ethyl free radical. So out of these two, say, butyl cation will be more stable than ethyl free radical. So corresponding to mass value 57, that means butyl cation, the fragmentation will be most probable, or the molecule will mostly fragment in this particular way, and so the intensity of peak at 57 is highest. So the peak at m by z value 57 is largest peak. It will be assigned 100, and the other peaks, that means peaks at say mass value of hexane is 86, so peaks at 71, peaks at 43, peaks at say 29, and so on. These will be of lower intensity, and the relative intensity of peaks at these m by z value is with respect to that of peak at 57. So why the peak at 57 is of highest intensity, that means out of various fragmentation, fragmentation between carbon atom 2 and 3 is capable of giving the most stable carbocation. So taking fragmentation in branch channel cane, so if we have branch channel cane, the fragmentation can take place in such a way that more stable carbocation will be generated. So if we have say 2-methyl pentane, so fragmentation can take place at this between first and second carbon atom. So that is capable of giving cation having m by z value 71 and corresponding to a secondary carbocation. If the fragmentation is taking between second and third carbon atom, it is also capable of giving say a secondary carbocation. So these two fragmentation are possible. So out of a carbocation and a free radical, so carbocation is always more stable than a free radical, and that's why generally fragmentation takes place in such a way that a more stable carbocation is formed rather than a free radical. So for this particular compound, 2-methyl pentane, we have these peaks at different m by z values in its mass spectra. So the spectra or the peak at 43 is most prominent. So that is because this carbocation form is most stable. So this is the base peak, and other peaks at m by z 71, and this is for ethyl group is lost. So this type of mass spectra will be observed for branch in alkane like 2-methyl pentane. So fragmentation is also affected by presence of heteroatom. So if heteroatom like nitrogen, sulfur, oxygen or chlorine is present in organic compound, so presence of these heteroatoms say cleaves the compound in a particular manner, and in these type of molecules the cleavage takes place by a rule that is called alpha cleavage rule. So what is alpha cleavage rule? So the bond alpha, the bond alpha to the carbon atom which is joined to the heteroatom, that is broken most easily. So if we have nitrogen as heteroatom, so 2 nitrogen, this carbon is joined. So this particular bond, carbon joined to other atom like carbon or other atom, this alpha cleavage will take place, and corresponding to this we will have this cation will be formed with the formation of this radical. So alpha cleavage is possible because the cation form get stabilized through resonance due to presence of lone pair of electron present on, say, nitrogen atom or oxygen atom or, say, halogen atom. So here we have lone pair of electron on nitrogen atom. After cleavage of this bond, this carbocation is formed, which is get stabilized due to presence of lone pair of electron on nitrogen. So this cleavage is, say, preferred. Likewise, if oxygen is present in the compound, bond alpha to the, say, heteroatom, that is, this bond will be broken, and so we will get this cation, and this cation gets stabilized due to resonance, due to presence of lone pair of electron on heteroatom. So if more than one site of alpha cleavage is possible, the ejection of largest alkyl radical gives largest peak. That means there are various alkyl groups joined to alpha carbon. So which alkyl group will be ejected? So that alkyl group will be rejected, which is capable of giving largest alkyl radical. So that particular fragmentation is preferred if heteroatom is present in the compound. So likewise, in the fragmentation, certain small molecules, small neutral molecules, like H2O, CO2, carbon monoxide, ethene, etc., can be lost from a molecular ion. For example, if we record the mass spectra of alcohols, it will easily lose H2O molecule and show prominent peak at M-18. So here we have one mass spectra of 2-methyl-2-butanol. So it do not have some molecular ion peak, but it has a peak. We know the molecular mass of 2-methyl-2-butanol. So we have a peak, prominent peak at M-18 here. So that is due to loss of H2O molecule. So if we have some alcohol molecule, generally H2O is lost from the molecule during fragmentation. So in that case, it is lost so easily that even the molecular ion does not reach the recorder in its original form, and even the molecular ion peak is not obtained in case of alcohol. Likewise, some molecules loses to CO or some simple molecule like acetylene or ethene during recording of, say, mass spectra of organic compounds. So this type of fragmentation is also there with loss of small molecules. And then one very important thing that is observed during the fragmentation process of a large number of organic compounds, and that is called, say, fragmentation with rearrangement. So a most important type of rearrangement, known as McLafferty rearrangement, is commonly observed in the compound having a formula like here it is given on the screen. That is, the compound should have multiple bond between two atoms like carbon, oxygen, sulfur, nitrogen, and phosphorus, and there should be a hydrogen atom present at gamma carbon with respect to heteroatom X. So if we have a structure in the molecule like this, and we have, say, this is alpha carbon, this is beta carbon, this is gamma carbon, and there is hydrogen atom joined to this gamma carbon. So McLafferty type of rearrangement takes place in compounds having this as the basic structure, where X and Y can be carbon, oxygen, sulfur, nitrogen, and phosphorus. So taking some example of compounds undergoing McLafferty rearrangement during fragmentation is here. We have taken the example of, say, butanol. So butanol has this carbon, oxygen, say, multiple bond. And with respect to this carbon, this is alpha carbon, this is beta carbon, this is gamma carbon, and hydrogen is joined to this gamma carbon. So there are gamma hydrogen present in the molecule. So if butanol molecular ion undergoes fragmentation, it will undergo fragmentation with rearrangement. So how this fragmentation takes place in this particular molecule or compound having this type of a structure is here. The fragmentation is responsible of giving this for butanol. It gives out ethene molecule with loss of this enol structure. So that means molecular ion of butanol having M by Z value 72 will give a very prominent peak at M by Z 44. And that will be peak of highest intensity, that will be base peak. And this is possible because there is a rearrangement in the molecule that takes place during fragmentation that is responsible for loss of this ethene molecule. So the peak at M by Z 44, that is molecular mass minus 28, is an even mass peak from the even mass number molecular mass ion. So butanol has molecular mass 72. It is giving a peak at M by Z at say 44. So if a compound having say molecular ion mass number as even and it is giving a base peak at even value, that means this type of fragmentation is taking place with rearrangement. That means a even number molecular ion is giving a ion which is capable of giving base peak at even value of M by Z. That means it is generally happening when there is a fragmentation with rearrangement. Likewise, some compound is having odd mass number and it is giving a base peak at odd number M by Z value. That means those type of peaks will be obtained with rearrangement. That means even molecular ion is giving base peak at even value and odd molecular ion is giving base peak at odd mass number value. So this, if happens, this generally takes place when the fragmentation is with rearrangement. And this type of rearrangement is called McLafferty rearrangement. This type of rearrangement is very common in compounds having acid group, aldehyde group, ketonic group, ester groups, amide groups, and so on. So a very large number of compounds undergo fragmentation obeying this McLafferty rearrangement in organic compounds. So this spectroscopic technique, as I have taken these examples for introducing this particular topic, mass spectroscopy, to students to know that what actually this spectroscopy is going to study and how it is going to help the students or as such in determining the structure of compound. So this is all about my representation. So thanks all. So any question? Hello? Anyone can ask any question? Any question?
Thank you very much, sir. A wonderful presentation given by you. Students, if you have any question, you can put up the questions with sir. Or maybe they will ask you later, sir.
Okay, madam.
Thank you very much, sir, for taking out time for this webinar. A lovely presentation on mass spectroscopy. आपने पूरे slides बनाए हम लोग के लिए.
Thank you, madam. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
It was a very nice time with you all. Science Day का रौनक बढ़ गया हमारा इस webinar से.
चलिए. Thank you,
Knowledge भी
madam.
मिला, हमारे students को भी बहुत knowledge भी मिला. Thank you very much, sir.
Okay, madam. Thank you.
Thank you. On this occasion of National Science Day celebration, it is my privilege to propose a vote of thanks and acknowledge the contribution of those who worked hard to make this webinar successful. I, Dr. Rashmi Charyani, first of all, would like to thank the three eminent speakers of the webinar, Dr. Satveer Jagwani, Dr. R.S. Singh, and Dr. Anil Kumar Delta, who took out time to be the presenters of the webinar. A big thank you to respected Chairman Sir, Vice Chairman Sir, Director Sir, Principal Ma'am, Vice Principal Sir, Dean of Science for their inspiration and guidance in conducting the Science Day webinar. A heartfelt thanks to respected Principal Ma'am, who was a support system throughout the process. She always plays a pivotal role in organizing such intellectual webinars. A very big thanks also to all the teachers who directly and indirectly helped in organizing and conducting the webinar. A special thanks goes to Mr. Shiv Shankar Gupta, Assistant Professor Computer Science, without whose technical support this webinar wouldn't have been possible. Also, big thanks to Mr. Abhinav Paul, Vice Principal of the college, who helped in this technological activities. Otherwise, these webinars, we know, wouldn't be possible. Thank you to all the participants who were with us till the end of the day. All of you have a nice day. Thank you. Ma'am, shall we end?
Yes, ma'am.
You want to say, ma'am, something?
No.
Okay. Thank you to all the participants. Thank you, present over here. We had a nice day today with intellectual topics on nanoparticles and microbiology and chemistry, mass spectroscopy. Thank you all.